Welcome once again to the Think Clinical podcast. My name is Dr. Hamza Suma. It's always nice to be here. Thank you so much for joining us once again. And I promise this is going to be another exciting episode. And if you haven't done it already, please remember to subscribe, like, and share our content. And we really do appreciate everything you do for this channel. Thank you so much, and we welcome you once again. So today I will be looking at a very important aspect of running your business, which is using key performance indicators to grow mostly your hospital business, because that is at least what I've had experiences doing. So we'll walk around what key performance indicators are, what you need to really look at measuring, because it's very clear that if you cannot measure something, you cannot change it. So you can only improve what you can measure. So you need to be able to put in certain items in place that you can measure and see how they improve or decline over time, and it offers you the opportunity to be able to intervene early whenever you have a challenge. So when you're able to measure different indicators, they either tell you whether your business is doing well or is dropping. So we'll walk through some of my suggestions of some of the indicators you can monitor in your hospital business today. And then hopefully, if you have any more ideas, you can share them with me in the comment section, or if you need any help setting up key performance indicators, I'll be able to help you. And as I always say, that these are very specific to your business, so it depends on how or what vision you have for your business and how you want to grow. But the ones I'll go through today are ones that anybody, once you apply them, they really cut across every hospital business, regardless of your vision for your business. So welcome once again. So jumping straight into it, first of all, KPIs or key performance indicators must measure performance. That is the first thing. Whatever you decide to measure must be able to measure performance in your hospital. They must be tied to your hospital goals. So it's very important that these are tied to your hospital goals or whatever your business goals are. Thirdly, they must be useful for stakeholders, and they must be able to enhance some form of cross-departmental collaborations. And the last item I want to clearly state out for KPIs is that it should be a set of actionable benchmarks. Those numbers should stimulate an action. You are not just pulling numbers and reporting on them. You are saying that this is what I see, this is what is happening, and this is what I want to do about it. So you need to have those numbers say something. What you should not have your KPIs do is that they shouldn't be difficult to understand. So people should be able to read them, especially your team should be able to see and read them and be able to identify what they mean for the business and what they need to do, what actions they need to take to be able to get you back on track if you're not on track, and if you are on track, how to keep you on track, because they understand it and it's not complex. The second thing, as I said, is that it shouldn't be complex. So it shouldn't be difficult to understand, and it shouldn't be complex, and then it shouldn't be overwhelming. So or just abstract and vague. So most people just put KPIs that really mean nothing, but just because they need to measure something, they just put something in there. So first of all, make sure that your KPIs are measuring performance. Make sure they reflect your business performance. Make sure they are tied to your business goals. Make sure they are useful for stakeholders and you can use them for some form of cross-departmental collaborations. And make sure they motivate actions from your team. As long as they are not complex and difficult to understand, as well as overwhelming and abstract or vague, you are good. So that's the introduction I need you to understand first of all, before we jump into the KPIs I think you should be looking at in your hospital business. So one of the KPIs that you should look at, and it's tightly tied to the heartbeat of your business, is your patient satisfaction scores or your patient satisfaction. Now, people have done this in so many different ways, where they leave suggestion boxes, they leave Google reviews and everything, just to hear back from patients and see how satisfied they are. So the patient will say, oh, I had 4-star treatment, I have 3-star treatment, I had 1-star treatment on Google reviews. And some people who don't have internet access like we mostly do in Africa would leave suggestion boxes in the or feedback boxes at the counter, where the patient will come in and then they'll fill, when they're checking out, they fill out how their experiences have been and they leave it behind. And mostly this is for management to appreciate. The advantage of doing patient satisfaction online, like Google reviews and all those things, is that it actually positions you well. If you get very good feedback from your patients and you are being reviewed very well, and then it also draws people's attention to your business, because then they are able to understand the kind of business you're doing and help people to make a decision when they need healthcare, because they are able to say, okay, this person went there, they had a good experience. But the other side of it is that if you're not doing such a great job and you're getting all these bad reviews or this bad feedback from patients, then you are going to be in trouble. So make sure that the first KPI you keep in mind is the person you are serving, which is the patient. And these are the lifeblood of your hospital business. So if you cannot measure how satisfied your patients are on each visit, you need to probably start doing that now, because it'll be very helpful for you. The second thing you need to pay attention to is your patient wait times. What does that mean? This can come in two different forms. If you're a specialty hospital where patients come to you on appointments or need to schedule appointments with the hospital, your wait times can be translated as how long it takes you to contact these patients and get them on your schedule. You can also measure how long they have to wait before they actually get to see you. And the third component, which is common in Africa, where patients who come in for primary care don't usually have appointments. The third thing is, how long do they have to come and sit in the hospital premises waiting to see a doctor? So 3 things that you need to look at patient wait times. Once again, if you're a specialist hospital and patients require an appointment to see you, how long do they need to wait to even get an appointment in the first place? Secondly, if they have an appointment, how far off or how far into the future are they supposed to wait before they can come in and see you? And the third thing is that, like most primary care providers who don't need appointments, how long does a patient need to come stay in a queue in your hospital before they get to see you? First of all, you need to set a standard for yourself and follow that standard, which means that you're going to say that, okay, any patient who is referred to me within 24 hours, we are going to contact this patient and we'll get them on our books. The second level of it is that, okay, any patient who is referred to us, we will make sure we contact them within 24 hours and we'll see them within a week. Or any patient who walks into the clinic without an appointment will not wait in the clinic for more than an hour to be seen. Now, when you create these benchmarks, what that does for you is that you are able to measure yourself against these every time. And that will mean when the patient comes in till they go out, you're able to see averagely how long every patient waits, to see when the patient was referred and when you call them and when they go into the hospital. And if they don't coincide with the benchmark you created for yourself, you need to adjust. Or you're able to see that, okay, now I'm scheduling patients as far back as 3 months when I said I should be able to see them within a week. So then there's something wrong. Either you're bringing another provider or you increase the number of hours to work. Whatever you need to do, it means that you need to do something. Otherwise, then you are not meeting that metric. The third thing you need to look at is your revenue and expenses. And if I talk about this without your revenue expenses ratio, then I probably didn't do this. So you need to be able to look at how much you're getting and how much you're spending. You need to run that ratio every month at least. You need to see that, okay, I made 100,000, I spent 120,000, so probably your ratio is going to be less than 1. Every time, what you are aiming to do is to make more than you spend, so your ratio should be more than 1 at all times. So the third one I want to talk about is the revenue against expense ratio. The fourth one will be on your staff productivity. And how would you measure that? Your staff productivity, you can measure that by looking at the number of patients they see per day, or the number of patients they see per hour, or better still, the number of procedures they do in a day, or the number of procedures they do in an hour. Always make sure you put a time to it. So if you are growing, you realize that the number of patients you are seeing a day should be increasing. If you are stagnant, it's probably going to remain the same or just move around the same thing. If you are declining, you realize that your number of patients you see in a day is going down, and that means that staff productivity is probably dropping. Same thing, if you are going, want to see how productive they've been, look at the number of procedures that are done, whether they are major procedures or minor procedures. You can break these metrics down into finer details depending on what you want from them. So this is very important that you really pay attention to this part of that conversation. The next metric you need to look at is your clinical outcomes, and one of the biggest clinical outcomes you need to measure is your mortality rate. The importance and the essence of a hospital is to treat people and keep them alive and improve their health. So if you cannot measure whether or not you are doing a great job at that, then you have a problem. So you need to really pay attention to what you are measuring in terms of your clinical outcomes. And one of those measurements is your mortality rate. How many people die from preventable deaths in the hospital? You need to look at that, and not just to a category but across. You need to look at the general numbers. You need to look at specific numbers. How many maternal mortality rates are you having? How many infant mortality rates? What's your infant mortality rate? You need to measure those things, and that would be a very objective reflection of your clinical outcomes and your clinical delivery, whatever you're delivering clinically. Another metric you need to look at is your staff turnover. So in healthcare businesses, one of the biggest things you don't want to happen is for your staff to leave, and every time patients come in, they have to deal with new staff. Now, there's a lot of discomfort when it comes to patients sharing their personal information, their personal health information, and everything that they go through. There's discomfort to it. This is very personal to people. If every time they have to tell their personal business to a new person, it makes them very uncomfortable. So patients generally would lean more towards a place that is more stable in terms of staffing. They want to come in and see the same doctor because they have the confidence that this doctor knows about my condition, my medical or surgical condition. They understand it. They've seen me for a while. They've kept me going. So it'll be strange to come back and narrate the whole story to a new provider, and with the hopes that they'll be able to really understand it as much as this other provider. So patients want some stability when it comes to employees. So it's when your hospital, the turnover is really high, then you need to get worried, because what that will impact is going to be your other metric, which is going to be the patients that you see. How many patients walk through the door? How many patients are seen per day? So you need to make sure that in as much as you're trying to build a strong healthcare system, you are also very strong on trying to build a culture that makes the environment welcoming. Patients walk in, they're happy, they want to be where they are, they love it, they love working for you, they're there for the long term. Your employees are happy, and that reflects on your patients, and that just goes deeper and deeper. And then the last one, let me say the last one is a patient hospital acquired infections. And it's enough when patients walk into your hospital with their own problems. It becomes worse for them when they have to pick up something from your hospital and take it back home, or have to pick it up and then treat it. So one other very important metric you need to monitor in your hospital business is how many hospital acquired infections, what's your rate, and then ideally it should be 0, but then in an environment like that, things really do happen. So but it shouldn't be something that you should see going up. So you have to monitor it. You have to keep an eye on it, because all these reflect back into my first point, which is patient satisfaction. And the moment that metric starts going down, everything else will not hold, regardless of what you do. So these are just a few metrics that I think run across every business, regardless of your vision and what you hope to achieve, and especially your hospital business. And if you can pay attention to these things, I think you'll be ahead of a lot of your problems at most of the time. So thank you so much once again for tuning in. This is the Think Clinical podcast. I'm always happy to be here to share my thoughts. If you need to talk more into details on some of these things, again, just leave me a comment and I'll be happy to get in touch and we can talk about this. Thank you so much, and then have a good one.